Welcome to the Take the North podcast. I'm David Haugh on the Mully and Haugh Show on 670 The Score. Dan Wiederer from the Chicago Tribune covering the Bears, and it is schedule release day, and we have our reaction to the Bears schedule. We know who they're going to play. We've known that for a while. We know they have the third easiest schedule in the league according to statistics. We know all those things, but now, Dan, I think we know the order in which these games will be played. Most importantly, I think, how they're going to start the Caleb Williams era. And that, according to the schedule release, it'll be a home game against the Tennessee Titans at Soldier Field. That, to me, is a good way to start that era.
Yeah, it feels like a nice ease-in game against an opponent that lost 11 games a year ago, is undergoing a regime change. And so you look at that and you say, man, at home, the opportunity to kind of rev up the already excited enthusiasm that's in this town. It feels like a nice start to things. And it's also the start of a stretch in which the month of September will be a little bit of a tour of the AFC South after the Bears leave Soldier Field and go on the road for 2 games against opponents in that same division. But yeah, I think right off the surface, you say, man, like for those who wanted to see how the curtain would open on the Caleb Williams era, this one feels like one that should conceivably be in the Bears' reasonable hopes of winning.
It's not who you play, it's when you play them. We'll go through each game and predict the outcomes if you wish, Dan. I think it's fun to do that and then look back. But I think a couple real quick things that jumped out at me as far as an overview. Really surprised that according to the way this is breaking down, that the Bears don't play a divisional game until November. And they're going to take the North. They're going to take the North late in Caleb Williams' rookie season. And I think that could be a good thing in terms of if you value the divisional play and if you believe, as I think we have talked about, the NFC North could be one of the tougher divisions in football, one of the most improved divisions in the league. And that's not a bad thing to be trending in the right direction theoretically and not play your first divisional game until you get the Packers at home on November 17th. So I think that could be a good thing for an offense that might be gelling and has allowed some time to kind of come into its own.
There's no question, right? And I would imagine that you've heard me talk in the last week about trying to maximize Bears theater. If the Bears can put themselves in position to be a team that is in the thick of things, it sets up the entire world to have intrigued eyes on what they're going to do down the second half of the season, down the stretch, and how they're going to finish if they're able to build momentum towards putting themselves in the position to charge for maybe a division title or at least a wild card berth. And you mentioned that first division game coming on November 17th. That's going to be part of a 12-day stretch where they go Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit. We have our trip to the Motor City for Thanksgiving yet again. It'll be the 5th time in 11 seasons that I will spend Thanksgiving Day up in the press box at Ford Field. But you look at that little 12-day segment later in the year, and we'll get to that, and you just say, man, like that's going to have a long runway to get there, and then it's going to get on you really fast once you're there.
You also wonder about the effects of a trip to London, week 6. They play the Jaguars, and the Jags will be there for 2 weeks, consecutive games. But that is also probably it doesn't put the Bears at a disadvantage. I think that's as far as we want to go, because had the Jags been there a week before, played a game, and stayed there, and the Bears were coming, you would worry about some factors favoring the Jaguars just in terms of not dealing with jet lag that the Bears and teams that fly abroad the week of the game would be doing. The big question will be, how will Flusy handle the travel to London but compared to how they did it last time when everything fell apart? And that was the game. That was Kyle Long's last game as a Bear. They played there since then, though, right?
That was the last time.
That was the last one. Okay.
And Chase Daniel played that game, if you recall correctly. Mitch Trubisky had gotten hurt the previous week, and it was a Chase Daniel affair, and the Bears got down early, and we're in a big hole, and they couldn't quite dig out of it all the way. They made a valiant comeback in the second half, but weren't able to finish the job. Look, like you mentioned, the Jaguars playing back-to-back games there. They will quote unquote, host the Patriots at Wembley Stadium the following week. And so, they'll have to stay another week, and it'll be the Patriots that say, well, what the heck happened? The Jaguars have already been here for a week, and they'll be the team that has to worry about that. It's my sense from some folks I've talked to that the Bears may be considering an early arrival into London. Going to have to dig in on that a little bit the next time we get a chance up at House Hall to check in the availability and figure out if they've talked that through in a way that sets them up, obviously, through strategy. They think about this long and hard on what's going to be best sports science wise and what's going to be best for our football team to make something like that work.
Two stretches that would seem to favor the Bears. It appears they have 3 straight home games in the month of November. If they play the Patriots, Packers, and Vikings back to back to back weeks at Soldier Field, it's a time of the year where you sense people are, definitely getting used to not being a rookie, getting acclimated, because you expect the Bears to count on their rookie class considerably when you talk about a Dunze fitting into the passing game, and certainly Caleb Williams at the helm. But Dan, I think that's an advantage. Also, you look at week 2, to me, going back to begin the season after whatever happens with the
Yeah.
Titans opener, that's a marquee game at Houston against the Texans. C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams, last year's version of the turnaround with the rookie quarterback against a team that is considered to be this year's potential version of the same type. They can pull off the same type of thing. That, to me, is a marquee battle.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to attract the bright lights with that one, without question. And you talk about resetting the bar for rookie quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud took a 13-loss football team and threw for 4,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, led him to a division title and a playoff win. And so people around the NFL are saying, okay, your move, Caleb Williams. Figure out if you can match what C.J. Stroud did as a rookie in terms of turning around a franchise that looked like it was lost and deep in a hole and got them to a level where now you're thinking about them contending for the division title for the next 5-6 years with his quarterback play at the center of that. That's a fun game in week 2. And I'm looking for some fun games early in the schedule to get my own juices flowing. That one certainly fits the bill on September 15th.
And a week after that, you go to Indianapolis and you play the Colts. So 2 weeks in a row, you see dynamic quarterbacks who will be in their second year. Anthony Richardson, much less proven than C.J. Stroud, but also as exciting potentially if he can stay healthy. I think by week 3, who knows, but he's likely to be on the field. So you would have a good matchup of quarterbacks, young quarterbacks there that are their franchise quarterbacks already. And you go to a place at Indianapolis. It's hard to know what to expect from the Colts, but that is probably a winnable game as the Bears play their AFC South opponents in back-to-back weeks. And I think that it depends on how you start the season. But also, I guess the first 3 games, you look at the division. That is that's an unusual start to the schedule in terms of who you're playing and when you're playing them. Obviously, there's a lot of it's a gigantic math problem, but I don't know how they play 3 straight AFC South games to start the season, and then they don't play a divisional opponent until November. It's a little bit imbalanced in that way.
It felt abnormal for sure when you first saw it on paper and you're looking at it and you're going, wait a second, this can't be right. But like get used to it. Like get ready to go through the AFC South in the month of September. That Indianapolis game, Anthony Richardson's big knock is that he can't stay healthy. If he's not healthy, Joe Flacco's there. And the Bears know what Joe Flacco did to them in Cleveland last year in leading that huge comeback in what was a bit of a season defining moment there late in the year as they were trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see what happens there. Obviously, that's a quick drive down I-65 and an easy trip for folks like you and I to get down to Lucas Oil Stadium.
Good news or bad news? I think the good news is the Bears play the game in week 17, I believe, against the Seahawks, Thursday night football, primetime affair. That's a good showcase game on December 26th, day after Christmas. Good for them. Then they get an extended period of time, an extra mini bye week, if you will, to prepare for the finale against the Green Bay Packers. That's the bad news. I don't like finishing at Lambeau Field again. I don't like the measuring stick type of thing. It'd be 1 year later. We all know what happened last year when the Bears went up to Lambeau to finish the season. It wasn't pretty, and I just don't know if that's the best way to finish the season.
The league loves it. You want to be ready for the possibility of Bears Packers meaning everything, something to both teams, right? When you get there, Caleb Williams grew up idolizing Aaron Rodgers. This will be his first trip inside Lambeau Field to play a football game. It'll be really interesting to see how he handles that spotlight, particularly if there are stakes to that game. But you mentioned that Seattle game. It's peculiar there to have a second Thursday night game scheduled and have it that late in the year, sandwiched between 2 critical division games, which is that week 16 game at home against the Lions and the finale at Green Bay. And so you've got to figure out how to manage that, because that quick turnaround from the Lions game to second Thursday nighter in Seattle is going to challenge you, and then you're going to have to get ready to play hopefully a game that has a ton at stake in Week 18 in Green Bay after the New Year.
I wonder if that trip to Lambeau will be the first official time that Caleb Williams has been mooned by Packers fans, right? Basically by Packers fans, but maybe not in general. So that's the way you wrap things up, and you're
No,
right about
I definitely not in general. I think Mark Potash did it at rookie minicamp a week ago.
Is that right? Wow. That's really something. That must have been really protesting. I didn't see that on his Twitter feed.
It was underreported for sure, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, from things I heard, that may or may not have happened.
Wow, that's a good little detail. We need to get to the bottom of that, so to speak. Looking again at some of the other games that might be interesting, I think that going to Arizona in December is a good time to go to Arizona, especially if you cover the team. But that, to me, is who knows what shape they'll be in by that point. But that's a game that if you are ailing after your Thanksgiving Day game, maybe the Lions hand it to you. Maybe the Lions are rolling again. It gives you a chance to get well in December. And I think you're always looking for those get well opportunities in December. So the December opponents, Cardinals in Arizona, at the Vikings, Monday Night Football, Lions at home, and then the Seahawks and Thursday Night Football, back-to-back home games. Gives you a chance to look at two of those games as winnable. Two of those games, you might, if you go 500 in December, I think you got to feel pretty good about your season at that point, because you're going to be, let's be honest here, you want to be respectable. You're trying to win more than you lose, but I don't think anybody's looking at this schedule or looking at this roster and thinking, all right, there's 13 victories there. If you are, I suggest that maybe you call your physician. But if you're looking at it realistically, then I think you're looking at this is a team that's going to be probably flirting with 500 all season long.
That's how I have it, honestly, as I go through it. Again, it's May 15th here on the calendar, and this is all subject to change. We got to see how training camp goes. We got to figure out where the injury status is as we roll along in toward the regular season. But look, like, we know that the Bears are positioned to be better this year than they were a year ago. They should be able to take advantage of some of these pockets on the schedule better than they did a year ago. I was listening back to our schedule review podcast from a year ago just to prepare for tonight, David, and there was a point where you were talking about the 2023 Bears getting off to a hot start because of the way the schedule was set up, and we all know that was the furthest thing from a hot start. And so you still have to take care of your business on the field. The one thing you said last year that I thought really still rang true was it was a shot at the Bears approaching respectability again. And I think by the end of the year, we felt like they were approaching respectability. Well, this is the year to cross into respectability territory and not just approach it. Establish yourself there and keep moving in the right direction. Keep climbing the staircase. A couple other games on my radar. I like Week 8. You come off the bye week and you get to play the Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels game in Washington. That'll be fun for the number 1 and number 2 pick in the draft. That'll have a certain amount of spotlight on it. In the month of October, the Panthers game, we all know how many times that week we're going to see the graphics of the trade from 2023 and what the Bears return haul in on that was, which includes DJ Moore, which includes Darnell Wright, which includes Tyreek Stevenson, which includes Caleb Williams, which includes Torrey Taylor. And oh, by the way, they're going to get a 2025 second round pick out of that trade. That graphic will be pasted all over social media and the TV broadcast for that one. And when the Bears travel to San Francisco, that's a measuring stick game, right? Like, that's a game we don't talk enough about this Bears defense right now because of all the Caleb Williams hype. That Bears defense is getting better, and that San Francisco offense is about as tough of a test as you can take with Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and whoever's remaining in the receiving core. If Ayuk and Debo are still there, that's going to be a test for you to take and figure out where you are in your defensive development.
I think not only because of where they might fall in the schedule, but just that they're on the schedule. The 3 toughest games to me, the ones that they are, if we're doing a power rankings of teams of games that are hardest to win, I think you're going at 49ers, at Lions, at Packers. Yep. I think the finale against Green Bay, to me, for reasons we talked about, is just not a good way to end the season. And I think obviously the 49ers are the class of the teams on your schedule. The Lions, with due respect, they're in the division. You might play them well because it was a good matchup in the past. I think that had as much to do with Justin Fields and the defenses they played against him as much as anything. But you play them on Thanksgiving Day. That's not a good time to play the Lions, as we know historically. So those 3 games to me are the toughest 3 on this schedule, with maybe maybe the Texans game coming in fourth. I do believe the one you mentioned, the Commanders at DC, that's a good time to be playing that team because I don't think they are as complete. When you just look at the roster, that's a game the Bears should win. And certainly the
Yeah.
Panthers is a game the Bears should win as well.
I've got them down for wins in both those games that you just mentioned. Did this last year, so I'm going to do it again. The Bears will play 5 games this season against teams that have new coaches this year. Interesting little nugget there. They will play 10 games against teams that had a winning record a year ago, 7 against 2023 playoff teams, 8 games against teams that have Pro Bowl QB1s. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
I think that when you look at the new coaches, that could go either way, right? It depends on depending on how quickly of an impact they make. What do you think about the bye week being Game 7? I don't know if there's ever the only word bad time to have a bye week. I think is if it's before
Too
the
early.
6th week.
Yeah.
Yeah, too early. I wonder is week 7 too early for a team that still has as much football in the division left to play, and that's a physical division. So you wonder about attrition.
So yeah, no, I mean it's a good point, and I think the last 2 years the Bears have had their bye week in December, which was a little bit abnormal on the later end of things for them. Certainly last year that was the case, and like you look at this two ways. Number one, it's kind of by necessity. I've talked multiple times about just how difficult it is to come back from England and get your body right, and just even to function as a as a human, much less a high level football player. And so I think it's a smart move there to accept that bye week coming out of the London trip and just regroup from that and go there. And then you have to take advantage of the mini buy opportunities that you talk about. The Thursday games give you those sort of extended weekends and the weeks into the following weeks, and they're going to get 2 of those with the Thanksgiving game at Detroit, and then obviously the one that you mentioned in late December against the Seahawks. So you just have to use those as sort of mini breaks to help you compensate, given that your regular bye week does come in the middle of October.
So you've got Sunday night football, you've got Thursday night football, you've got Thanksgiving, you've got London. I think all of this underscores what Caleb Williams referred to, I think, during one of his first press conferences about the structure that he felt like the Bears coaching staff excelled at. One things that he noticed, or at least made, we talk about the first impressions Caleb Williams makes on us. The first impression, one of them that the coaching staff and the Bears organization made on him was the amount of structure that they provided. Dan, I know it probably goes without saying, and it might be something that every team can say in every city. But that, to me, if it is a strength of this coaching staff, that's a good thing for the quarterback to notice. And that maybe makes you feel better about their preparation for each of these irregular starting times or irregular dates. It's just a fact of life in the National Football League. The days of having 10 straight noon kickoffs wherever you're playing are over.
Right. And, there'll be a Monday night in there. I think that one's going to be the week 15 game in Minnesota, potentially. And then look, like you got to get used to, again, not being the noon game, right? Like you're going to get some spotlight games elsewhere. It's fun to be relevant again, and the Bears should lean into that as they have to this point, and they should continue to lean into that because that is the life that you are ultimately trying to carve out for yourself for the long term. Be relevant for the rest of the 2020s. This is your chance.
The Rams ideally would be coming into Soldier Field in December when it's about 5 degrees and Matthew Stafford shivers and remembers how much he loved playing indoors. But that's not the case. They come in September 29th. That's still a pretty good football team. We tend to overlook the Rams as contenders, but they're going to have a lot of talent. McVay will have them ready. I don't know if that's a game the Bears can win, even though it's at home.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, I've got them down for an L on that one. We'll see where they're at. That first month of the year is going to be a good test to just figure out what's real and what's not with this football team. We said that a year ago, and we saw, there's a lot of things here that are not contention ready, and they had to smooth through with some of those wrinkles and go through some really hard times to eventually get themselves on the path that they wanted to go down. Now you've got to be very serious about getting yourself off on a much better start, because I promise you that you and I will not be able to walk into October with an 0-4 start and be glowing and giving positive vibes about this Bears team like we are here in May.
There's a lot to be positive about. So, okay, let's get to it. These are the games I have the Bears winning. I have them have victories over the Titans, the Colts, the Panthers, the Jaguars, the Commanders, the Patriots, the Vikings, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. I think that those are 9 victories. I have them losing to the Texans, the Rams, the 49ers, the Packers, the Lions, and the Packers. So I have the Bears finishing 9-8. Will it get them into the playoffs? It depends on everybody else. But 9-8 is a modest goal, a reachable goal with this roster, with this quarterback, and with this coaching staff. The schedule tells me the Bears are going to finish 9-8.
As of today, I have them in an identical 9-8 record. By the way, I think we both had them at 7-10 on this day a year ago. I have them beating the Titans, the Colts, the Panthers, the Commanders, the Patriots, the Packers at home, the Cardinals, the Vikings on the road, and the Seahawks. So that's my path to 9.
Okay, how about any losses that surprise
well, so
you?
I mean, look, like that sends you to Green Bay at 9-7 for the finale, right?
Yep.
And that would presumably put you on the stage with an opportunity to maybe steal a wild card berth in the NFC. And so that like bring me that theater, bring me that show, and let's go back up to Green Bay with something to play for, something to prove.
In the minute we have left, Studs, what is your projected record for the Chicago Bears after seeing their schedule? No 17-0 answers are acceptable. What do you say about the way the schedule is breaking down, and what do you see as a predicted record?
Okay, I think we're all on the same page on this one. I'm going 9-8, and I actually honestly, I think that me and Dan are pretty much aligned on this. David, you're killing me with another Packers sweep. Come on, man. That'll be what, 13 losses in a row? No, we're not doing that again.
12, yeah.
12 in a row? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 12. So no, we're not doing that again. So I do have them. I typically always pick them to split the division, but so I'm going that route again. And yeah, I think they end up around 9-8. And they could probably sneak a 10th win in there if they find a way to sweep the Lions.
I'll allow that. I think they could get the 10th win, and that could be the Packers game that I have them losing at home. I think that could be the game that could be their 10th victory.
I mean, look, I think it's fair to say that you've got a range here of like 8-11, right?
Yep.
This football team this year, depending on how good fortune and health work out for you.
I think that we all have them beating the 8 on the over for 8.5 wins, which is typically about where they're at if you're in the betting markets right now. So we all have them on the over.
Good stuff, Studs. Thanks for weighing in. That seems to be a reasonable outcome and prediction. I'm surprised at his rationality, but I am impressed because
I love it.
I think we're all in the same place.
No doubt about it. And in our next episode, obviously, we'll do a full breakdown of the preseason schedule, which we didn't have time for tonight. We'll dive really deep into that 4-game slate, and then probably on a more significant basis, we'll go back through rookie camp, and you and I will discuss some of the things that came out of that festivities at Haugh Hall a week ago. And there's a lot still to unpack and sound out as we set the stage for what looks like a pretty fun 2024. And it's not every year on schedule release day that we say this should be fun this year.
Absolutely. You nailed it by saying this is it's good to be relevant, and the Bears certainly are, and the schedule reflects that by the amount of nationally televised games and the opportunity that exists for Caleb Williams, Matt Eberflus, and everybody else at Haugh Hall. All right, so that's our schedule breakdown. For Adam Sadzinski, our producer, Dan Wiederer at Haugh Hall at home today, but covering the Bears from Haugh Hall typically. I'm David Haugh from the Mully and Haugh Show. You can listen to us at the Take the North podcast on your free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. And you can watch us on the 670 Scores YouTube page. We'll talk to you next time.
Great talk. See you out there.